Hi, welcome to Talking Books and Stuff, the program that talks all about books and writing and stuff. Here's your host, Dennis Rimmer.
Hi there, welcome back. This is Talking Books and Writing and Stuff. And by the way, this is brought to you in part by the Rebel Typewriter Workshop in Saskatoon. Look it up online, the Rebel Typewriter Workshop. If you're interested in typewriters of all kinds, Tom there can fix you up. So that's the Rebel Typewriter Workshop. And we've also had him on Talking Books in the past. But right now, we have with us a return engagement. About a year ago, in one of our earlier podcasts, we spoke with Allan Kehler. And Allan is a best-selling author, highly motivated or highly sought after and motivated motivational speaker. He speaks out across the country, been doing this for a number of years. So Allan, thinking back to last year at this time, how has life changed any at all for you in the last 12 or 13 months?
Well, first of all, thanks for the warm introduction, Dennis. Happy to be back with you. Oh, man, COVID has kicked my ass a few times, but I think it's all of us are adapting, right? And the last time that we spoke, I think that the book itself on men and mental health was simply an idea, and I'd gathered a few interviews, and I guess what has come to be today is it's just been cool to sit back and see how some of those conversations and stories have been able to get out into the world.
And like we said, you're a, we'll say, mental health advocate, especially for men. A mental health advocate meaning you're all in on trying to get people to understand their situations and to not be silent about them. In fact, some of your earlier books, we had Born Resilient, we had Goodbye Stress, Hello Life, and Stepping Out from the Shadows. So what was your early life like that led you at, 14 or 15, that you started a sort of a downward spiral? What was that all about? Do you recall it all?
Oh, for sure. And I think you hit the nail on the head there with the whole silence piece. And I guess where I grew up, Dennis, this small town conservative community, we didn't talk about mental illness. We didn't talk about addictions. All that I really knew is that if I did drugs or had alcohol or sex before marriage, I was going to hell. And I was like, I don't want that. That doesn't sound very good. So right. I kind of put my head down. I excelled in athletics and academics. I smiled. I guess I really hid behind that smile. And because we didn't talk about these things, once some of those struggles started happening, I really had no clue what to do with them. So I suppressed them. I didn't put a voice to it. And if emotions are energy, which they are, you can obviously only suppress for so long until one's going to become full. And at that point, because I lacked the tools, I eventually reached out to things like self-injurious behaviors, alcohol. I did everything I could, I would say, to escape myself. I had no relationship with myself, and so I guess I carried that for so long, as many individuals do, and eventually I got to that point where something had to give. That energy had to be released in a healthy way. It's like that proverbial fork in the road where it became pretty clear that if I want something different, I have to do something different.
And it's like they say, your altitude depends on your attitude. But how do we get past that? Because I know in my case, I've been a pretty steady drinker, never really, I'll say, lapsed into full-blown alcoholism. But I can remember in my 20s especially, I liked having a few beers after work because I liked myself better when I had a few beers in me. And I didn't know how to explain that except to myself. So, and on the outward, I was the funny guy who always cracked the jokes. And inside, there's a quote in the book. We'll get to that in a minute. The book is Mental Health. It's Time to Talk. And I just pulled this out a minute ago. It's like fighting a war inside your head. Is that what you experienced?
Well, that's exactly it, Dennis, isn't it? I mean, what I had to essentially do is get outside of my head, because I had an elder tell me once, you can let a bird into your mind, but don't let it build a nest. And I think for myself, because I struggled to put a voice to my thoughts, then they just spun and spun in different ways, and they self-sabotaged me and assaulted my mind, and then I started believing some of those negative scripts. However, once I was able to put a voice to some of those thoughts, I was able to bounce ideas around. I was able to understand that other people have similar thoughts. I wasn't alone in it, right? All these different things came because I finally was able to get the thoughts out of my head. And that was step one. Step one, put a voice to your pain.
Step one, the first one is to recognize that you have an injury. It's if you have a broken arm, you go to the ER and say, I think I broke my arm. But if you have a broken brain, what do you do?
Well, that's just it. Yeah, and then we're up against all these other scripts, aren't we?
Exactly. And it's like this, you can rewrite your own script, I've been told, but I've been working on that for 60 years, and I haven't finished the final draft yet. But
well, let me know when you do.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I can remember, and see, often it is the caregiver. It is a person of support who encourages us as men to get help, right? And for me, that's exactly how it played out. It was actually my mom who finally said one night when I was down and out, she said, you need help. You need to promise me that you're going to go to a doctor and get help. And for me as a man, that was so hard. I was living with 3 guys at the time, and as if I was going to tell them where I was going, I somehow make my way into this room sitting across from a doctor, and just having to say that I'm not doing well. And I remember it was so, I felt like I was not being seen as a person. It was, you know, his head was down. He's looking at this checklist. Do you cry? Yep. Are you eating? Nope. Are you sleeping? Nope. Here's the medication. And that was my first experience. No discussion about what was going on, no explanation of potential side effects. And then all of a sudden the next 6 years, that's what it looked like. 12 different combinations of, I think, 18 pharmaceutical pills. And I just combined that with alcohol. And I mean, it was a disaster for me.
Was there a watershed moment or a person that got you off that runaway train and onto a smoother siding?
There were so many people. But I think that what we forget about is the impact that we can potentially have on someone. Like, there were days when I just needed a smile. So, I don't even know why, but sometimes someone just looked at me a certain way and it just bought me a little more time, if that makes sense. Like hope is the only thing that we have when we're down and out. And sometimes it was just this random act of kindness. Sometimes, Dennis, it was something as random of me. I remember this one time when I was deep into alcohol and gambling, and I was having seizures, and I wasn't sleeping, and I mean, I was a mess. And I remember sitting on my deck of an apartment, and I see this kid who's, I don't know, 9 years old, and he's rummaging through the garbage bins. And for whatever reason, that was one of those moments in my life where I thought, damn, you know, this kid should be in school. He shouldn't be rummaging through the garbage cans. And what that did for me is it helped get me off of my pity pot, because I think I could play the victim role really, really well. You know, woe is me, nobody understands me, my life's so hard. And an instant just like that was enough to propel me to actually do something. So there also, there was one professor actually at university. He was a massive catalyst because he took the time to approach me when I was a student in his class of 300 people, and he told me to come to his office. And he didn't have to do that, but what he did is he opened up his door, and I took the risk. I went into his office, and I remember sitting there, and he simply asked me, "How are you doing today, Allan?" He made it personal. There was no judgment, and he took the time to listen, not fix. And then he gave me resources, and that was massive. And he just cared. He genuinely cared. So yeah, there are numerous times, not one.
Numerous, yes, I think that happens to a lot of us. And we're talking today with Allan Kehler here on Talking Books and Writing and Stuff. And some of the stuff we're talking about is mental health. And the discussion today will continue to revolve around Allan's latest book. Allan Kehler has Mental Health. It's Time to Talk. And a couple of people that a lot of us real guys would know about have contributed to the book. We've got Michael Landsberg, who was on the TSN, a sports talk show, for years and years, and then he came out, as it were, with mental problems. Clint Malarchuk, the famous NHL goalie who had that big neck cut and the bleeding scare that everybody saw on TV. Those are real men to a lot of us guys. How did you get them to help with this project?
I think we're all essentially trying to do the same thing. What I relate to the most with Clint, for example, is Clint always says that he feels as though he was spared to carry on a message. And for me, Dennis, I can look back at my life. I can look back at some of the situations I was in. There is no reason, no rational reason that I should still be upright and vertical after the life that I've led, after the things that I've done. And so Clint and I have spoken at a few events. We've become good friends over the years. And then someone like Michael, I mean, that man has paved the way for many of us to just put a voice to it. So we did a couple events in Ontario, and I just thought he would be a great person to do the foreword. I reached out to him, and there was no hesitation. It was simply, yeah, let's do this. And that's what I mean. We're all trying to do the same thing, maybe in a different way, but at the end of the day, we just want to talk. We're all collectively done with the silence, and we just want to put it out there.
And is there any one form of mental illness I'll say, or it's not just depression? It's a combination of strange thoughts that sort of keep us from reaching our full potential? Is there an actual definition of mental illness?
I guess I don't necessarily isolate the words mental illness. I tend to just put it all under mental health. That encompasses everything. Yes. Yeah, from our thoughts, that'll kind of capture everything, whether it's the mental illness, the substance use, the trauma, and it's trying to just understand what's going on inside. And I think that in this fast-paced world, we do a great job of distracting ourselves and losing ourselves in the journey of others. And I think when one becomes healthy mentally, they become aware of not only their own thoughts, but also their own body and potentially even spirituality.
And the book we're talking about right now by Allan Kehler is Mental Health, It's Time to Talk, and the men part of mental health is highlighted in a different color on the cover of the book that we have. So men, why are men so much different than this than, women, I suppose, or young kids even? What keeps us back?
Yeah, I guess to answer that question, we have to go back a few generations, don't we?
Yes.
And it's simply that these messages about putting a voice to your pain, about expressing emotions, about being vulnerable, reaching out for help, didn't really exist. And the thing is that a kid will enter into this world, and especially a boy will look up at his father, at a grandfather, at any other adult males, and learn from them, soak everything in. So if that child sees that person is potentially struggling and just puts his head down, that's a learned behavior. If a child learns that you don't cry, that you man up, all those things, then you live it out. And that's why I really want adults, in particular men, to start to look at their behaviors and model some of those healthy things, like rewrite those scripts. We need to show our children that it's not only okay, but it's healthy to ask for help. We don't have to fight this stuff on our own, right? And that's what takes work, and that's what is easy to say and difficult to do.
Exactly. It's time to talk. Keep talking about it. Silent no more. You've got some sections later on in the book that talk about Allan Kehler, that talk about how to move toward wellness. So what kind of suggestions can you give us about creating a better mental health situation in our own lives and within our family units?
Yeah, I think that one of the parts that sticks out is just expressing your emotions in in a healthy way. I think even in the book, I said, if most men are given the choice of either being punched in the face or having to talk about their emotions, most men would say, just hit me, just hit me in the face. But I think that it's learning how to put a voice to the emotions. I didn't really trust people. I mean, talking is one way that we can release emotions, but writing was something that was incredibly beneficial for me. I didn't want people to always know what I was thinking, so one counselor told me to write it out. And if emotions are energy, then I was able to express those emotions, and then I would burn them. I would release it. And I found that to be incredibly cathartic. I think that it's also important to just step back and take time for ourselves. Some people call that selfish. I mean, I would say that has more to do with self-respect. So one of the things I think I put at the back of the book was take 2% for you. 2%. I mean, what that looks like is if you get 8 hours of sleep, which is pretty good, and that leaves you with 16 waking hours, if you do the math, 2% of that carried to 3 or whatever that is. Anyway, it ends up being 20 minutes. 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
So 2%. Yeah. And so it's just encouraging people to take 20 minutes for yourself. Maybe that's a walk. Maybe that's a bubble bath, which is fine for men, by the way.
Oh, I know. It's great.
Use some essential oils.
It's wonderful. The book is Mental Health, It's Time to Talk, put together by Allan Kehler. I say put together because you have many different chapters in there by all sorts of different men from different walks of life, politics, sports, family life, farmers, city people. How did you get them all to contribute to this? It wouldn't be easy, I don't think.
You wouldn't think, and yet it was so easy. And why I guess it was easy, Dennis, is because it was always bigger than me. It was always bigger than me. This is what I found weird, and I don't think I've told a lot of people this, but how the book actually came to be was I was shoveling my snow, the driveway. I was shoveling the driveway in February, I think. And this is weird. This is going to sound weird, but it is what it is. It just felt like something smoked me on the back of the head. And all of a sudden, the whole skeleton of the book just appeared in my head. And I dropped the shovel. I ran into my house, and I grabbed the laptop, and I typed the whole book out. It was that easy. And then and then this is also bizarre, but it's what happened because I'm not a vision kind of guy. But when I went to sleep, I saw a long lineup of people, and they weren't both men and women. They were only men, and they were handing me something. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. And when I woke up, I realized, okay, this is a book that's supposed to be just for men. And I've known a lot of people. I searched up a few, but it sounds bizarre, but the men just appeared. And what was so cool is there's, similar to Michael Landsberg, no hesitation. All the men were eager to put a voice to some of their experiences. And so I really do believe that the book has always been bigger than me. I guess I just see myself as this catalyst, right? I have a bit of a platform. I don't know. It was just so cool to be a part of.
Just not to get too metaphysical here, but why not? That sounds similar to a discussion we had earlier on one of our podcasts here on Talking Books and Writing and Stuff with superstar Canadian musician Kim Mitchell, talking about songwriting, and he said, I just think that I'm the road manager for the song. The song comes, and then I have to take care of it. But it's like,
yeah,
you're saying the same thing.
That's true. That makes sense.
And the book is Mental Health. Yep, Mental Health, It's Time to Talk, Allan Kehler. Tell us a little bit about the actual publishing process for all the... We've got lots of would-be writers who check in, and so you're published through your Nicholsworth Publishing. What exactly are the nuts and bolts of that process?
The nuts and bolts aren't too involved. You type out a couple words on a Microsoft Word document, you get some formatting done, you get an editor, and it's definitely easier when you have a publisher, but I would still say the most common question that people ask me is how to write a book. And I think, Dennis, this is where people really overthink the process. And anybody who can speak can actually write. It's no different. You can speak something into a computer even, and it'll type it up. And yes. I think that the world we live in today, you can self-publish anywhere. right?
Yes.
And my avenue happened to be through a publisher, but I would say the vast majority of people today, if you have a message and you have a passion for something, you want to get it out there, type it on a Word document, do some formatting, Google how to self-publish. Everything's very straightforward if you're willing to do a bit of legwork to make it happen.
And the other one is like the old joke is, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. So how do you write a book? One word at a time. So you just
that's
sit
that's
down
right.
and bang it out. Another quote that I've got, we're talking about mental health with Allan Kehler here. Another one I pulled out is, depression is like wearing a wet wool sweater. And the person who came up with that is someone quite close to me, but I guess that also is sort of all-encompassing. It's like you're draped in this heavy covering jacket that you just can't seem to shake.
Yeah, so Jay Blakely is who you're referring to. Wonderful soul. I have so much respect and admiration for the way that he walks through life, and I would say also for his vulnerability. And that metaphor is so spot on, and I think a lot of us can relate to that. And the problem is no one can see the damn jacket. You know, it's weighing us down.
Yeah.
And mental health or mental illness, depression, it has this way of stripping us from even making decisions. And that's what Jay had said. He said sometimes it felt as though depression chose the relationships he was able to have with other people, right? It can make us seem powerless, but Jay is someone who fights. And I think that's what I admire so much about Jay. He doesn't give in. He reaches out for help. He uses a combination of medication with cognitive therapy. He lives. He chooses to live. And I mean, I don't know a lot about his journey, but I know enough, and it has been one hell of a tough go. Very grateful that he has people like you, Dennis, in his life. And I think that's what I took from the book. I was just so inspired and empowered by the fight that people choose to have, because it's also being real. Like mental health, or even for myself as a motivational speaker, life is not all of a sudden magically great. Find life incredibly difficult. And I would say collectively, all of the men in the book find life hard. But the difference is they don't suffer in silence anymore. They know to talk about their pain and to reach out for support. And they know that the next generation of men are watching.
And I was looking at just keep moving forward. That's another quote. I was just looking for that one. So we just keep moving forward, one step at a time, one day at a time, and keep talking. That, in a nutshell, kind of the message? Yeah,
it is. Well, you said it before too. You know, with one word at a time for writing a book. I think in even recovery from addictions, it's a process, not an event. I think any kind of challenge we have in life, we want the end goal. We want to feel better. Chris Beaudry, the assistant coach of the Humboldt Broncos, he says it well in the book. He says, nobody is going to come and tap you on the forehead and release all of your demons. If you want to heal, do the work. Do the work. So yeah, it's one step at a time, but to get to your end goal, you gotta do the work. No one's going to do it for you.
Allan Kehler is with us. It's Talking Books and Writing and Stuff, and we're talking about his latest release, Mental Health. It's time to talk all about men and mental health. Before we wrap it up, Allan, what's in store for you for the next 12 months, do you think?
I don't know. I don't know, Dennis. I have learned to think outside the box. I've learned, like for me, all my events that were supposed to be in person have been taken off the table. So I'm learning how to deliver a message virtually, which has been both challenging and exciting. And I guess it's a time for all of us to really look at how we handle stress, what we do with it, and time to be creative. So I'm not one to really set goals. I'm just open. I just try to have open ears and see where my skill set can potentially be used.
And Allan Kehler is with us. So how do we locate your book, and where can we pick it up?
I believe it's available at like McNally bookstores, Amazon, Indigo, Kohl's, or through my website, which is www.outfromtheshadows.ca, or Allan Kehler, KEHLER.com.
And there you have it, and you can write that down. It's www.outfromtheshadows.ca, and the rest of the information you just had. So, Allan, again, thank you very much, and if we don't see you beforehand, perhaps next year at this time we'll do another visit.
That sounds good. Well, I appreciate your time, and thanks for the work you do, Dennis.
Thank you.
Thank you for visiting with us today. This is Talking Books and Stuff with Dennis Rimmer. Contact him at dennis@talkingbooks.tk. Thank you, and may all the good news be yours. Oh, and don't forget to check out his book, The Great Canadian Notebook, available across Canada and at amazon.ca.